next Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball Group Therapy. I am Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief of MavsMoneyball.com. You are joining me once again for a new season of Group Therapy and Mavs Party. We thought we were going to have a Mavs Party tonight, right up until the very end of things. Just so you guys know, I'm testing out a new audio setup, courtesy of my wonderful friends at Spotify Live, including Patrick Muldowney, that nice young man there in the chat, who is a Suns fan. But that's okay. That's okay. So let me know if my audio sounds okay, if there's anything I need to adjust, because this is new for me as well. So for those of you who are joining late, you probably know the outcome of the game. The Dallas Mavericks fell late after having a 22-point lead. The third quarter was where things really went funky, and it was a really stupid loss. I just hung the loss on Coach Jason Kidd in my recap podcast, which is probably not specifically fair considering non-Luka Mavericks missed 13 of 21 free throws. That's really impressive and really hard to do. I will say that it's the Kidd coaching decision is going to be something I think we talk about a lot in here, so I'm interested on your thoughts. So remember, guys, as you come up here and invite, we're going to bring as many people on stage as possible. It is 12:30 on a Wednesday, though I'm pissed off enough to be up for at least an hour or so. So let's hang out. When you call yourself up, when I call your name, be sure to look for the green ring around your name to light up, and we will get through as many people as possible. Let's vent. Let's do this, because I already saw some sniping on my Twitter timeline. It's like, guys, we didn't play the game. It's not our fault. JaVale McGee decided to take multiple hook shots off of multiple dribbles and exchanged his pivot foot on a pass around the perimeter. There were just all sorts of goofy mistakes in the third quarter. So, okay, we got a long list already. Coming up first man whose name I saw is Armand. How are we doing? It's been a while.
It's been a while, Kirk. How are you?
I am okay.
So, it was a tough loss. It was a really tough loss. But again, it's the first game of the season. I think similar to what everybody else is thinking, man, what was Jason Kidd thinking today? Christian Wood goes on that run in the fourth quarter. He has 16 consecutive points, and you take him out. That makes sense, right? But you see the Suns are starting to come back. So I think he brought him back whenever it was 2:30 on the clock or something. So
yeah, he pulled him out. When did he pull him out? He pulled them out at about the 5:30
5-minute mark. Yeah. So that makes sense, because you did start the quarter off, and I guess it's part of the rotation. But we traded him for a reason. I mean, you can argue he's the second best player on our team, and he only played 24 minutes tonight. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that part was particularly rough. He's already given quotes about going back to looking at the tape, and this might be a stretch. So please, guys, I want you to tell me if you think I'm wrong about this. This was where that third quarter was where I felt the Mavericks missing an actual playmaker, a playmaking guard, really hurt them, because Spencer Dinwiddie goes out. And then they turn specifically to Luka. Tim Hardaway is in the game, but Tim Hardaway, somebody in the chat called him Trick or Treat Tim, which I think is a pretty good name. But Tim Hardaway's not a playmaker. He's a shooter. He's a scorer. He's going to shoot the ball. That's
It
what
gets
he
ugly.
does.
It gets ugly when he tries to be a playmaker too.
Yeah, and he was missing his shots tonight, and that's going to happen. But Christian Wood is effectively the second or third best playmaker on the team, and I think you have to have some combination of, and this is an extreme overreaction after one game, but this is just my thought after one game. You have to have a combination of Luka, Spencer, Luka, Wood, or Wood, Spencer out there at all times. Like that's what needs to happen to me.
100%. And I think another thing that could have killed us in the fourth quarter was that, okay, you take Christian Wood out, but did we not learn something last year? We had Maxey playing the 5 in clutch time. That's ridiculous to me. Like we picked up JaVale McGee for a reason. We're paying him $20 million.
Oh, JaVale stinky, Armand. JaVale very stinky,
I understand
though.
I understand that, but I would much rather have him than Maxey. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Maxey, one of my favorite players on the team, but we learned something from last year, man. Like, he's a true power forward. He can't play the 5.
Well, he's pretty good on defense, but tonight was an example of where he was getting outworked and things just didn't go their way multiple times. And if your defensive lineup isn't working, which is what they went to for that 4-minute stretch, at that point you want to go more offense, and that's where it just I would much rather see Wood out there than anybody else that they have.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I think one thing that pissed me off that not that many people are talking about is just the last shot by Luka. Because, I mean, okay, I get it. There was 9 seconds left. He had to get down the court.
Get to the lane, yeah. Get inside.
Why you're shooting from 40 feet out, man? Like, we needed a 2. You could have easily drove that in. You're the bigger guy. Like, same as the possession before. Whenever he got that and 1 on Damian Lee, he could have done the exact same thing. Game would have gone to OT. Why is he shooting it from that far out? That's one thing that pissed me off. But otherwise, he had a great game. 35 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. One thing, I know Josh Green only had 1 point, but I really enjoyed his minutes. I think he was very effective off the ball and as a defender.
I liked his defense. I did like his defense. It's just he's got that one where he cut in the lane and got it right outside the right block and then turned it over.
Mm-hmm.
Turn and score, bub. Like, just turn and lay it in.
I think one thing that was funny to me is that we did not see a single minute of Dwight Powell today. I think that's one sign of relief for us.
May he rest in peace, whatever he's doing. He'll have a time. I mean, it's a long season, and I'm sure we'll be just as ready to kill him at that particular point in time as we are right now. It's Dwight Powell is always there for us when we need someone to yell about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and then tomorrow in practice they just shoot free throws only. Like everything will fix itself, but free throws, man, come on, bro. Like,
well, it's so interesting because free throw rate and 3-point rate are usually really closely correlated. And for me, in my opinion, part of why Wood hasn't stuck anywhere is because of his lack of attention and focus and details when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And the threes he shot tonight were amazing, and then he goes 2 of 8 from the line, and the free throws that he missed were ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's almost entirely focus, pressure, prep. You can get better at it. Free throws are one thing that I think particularly guys that have a good stroke elsewhere can get better at. So hopefully we'll see him raise it because he can't shoot 60-something% this season.
No, exactly. And then it was just the free throws whenever a player missed both of them. Like, I think that's, as an NBA player, I think that's ridiculous too. I think not only just Christian Wood, but Dinwiddie, the one time he went to the line, he missed both free throws. McGee missed both free throws. I mean, you can't expect that much from McGee. But even I was impressed by Luka though. 13 of 13, especially from
that looked good. Yeah, the free throw, for Luka's game, somebody asked in the chat, what did I think of Luka's game? I thought he had an amazing first quarter, pretty good second quarter. Third quarter wheels came off, and for much, he shot 4 of 15 after the first quarter. That's got to be mentioned. He did hit a lot of free throws, but he's got it. He also got landed. He ended up with a lot of hand grenades. Like, he probably had 4 threes in the final 5 seconds of the shot clock. That's not always fair to Luka.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I think the main thing rotation wise is that, okay, you want Christian Wood off the bench. That's fine with me. I think the starting lineup is good the way it is. But he's got to play 30 minutes at least. I think
so too. Yeah.
With that kind of talent, you can't have him playing just 24 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then just one last thing I got to say. It was a rough night, but guys, it's only going to go up from here. Jason Kidd, I know it was not a great game coached by him, but he's shown that he's been making adjustments throughout the season, and I hope to see that from him. I think we will see that, and it's only going to go from here. I think my hot take, I think we finished with a better record than the Suns.
I like it. Thanks for starting us off, Armand. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. All right,
how's my audio sound, guys? Am I doing okay here? Please tell me if it sucks, because I know that's one of my friends at Spotify basically was like, I need to hear you more clearly. All right, coming up next, then we're gonna fly through some folks because I had to chat a little longer than I intended to. Will, welcome back. Find that unmute button there at the bottom. There we go.
Gotcha. I am okay. How are you, Kirk?
I'm fine now. The problem is my dogs have been waking me up at 4:45. It is 12:45.
Oh God.
So that's not long from now.
Yeah. I'm in Tennessee, so it's late as hell here, but I have the sleep schedule of a degenerate. So
Well, what are you thinking tonight?
My early hot take for this season is that we don't need a third ball handler. We need a second, because Spencer is not him. I think that a lot of Mavs fans are gonna really, really hate the shit out of Spencer Dinwiddie this season.
See, I wax and wane on this, because
do I.
The Spencer thing is, when Spencer's high, it's very similar to the Tim Hardaway experience, where you're like, this guy rules.
But you don't need. The problem is Spencer's a point guard, and that's the issue. That's the issue with that. You need steadiness out of at least your backup point guard. Tim being inconsistent is slightly different, but also I was also going to bitch about Tim Hardaway. I don't really like Tim's fit really at all on this team.
I don't think Jason Kidd likes Tim's fit, if we're being perfect. I
don't think so. I think Tim was definitely a Rick guy, but I worry because of the contract and just a lot of other shit. Who knows if we'll get him up out of there? But JaVale McGee sucks. We knew that. A lot of us knew that. I hated that signing from the second that it happened. I'm not excited about that. I'm fairly, it doesn't sound like it, but I'm fairly excited about this team. I'm excited about this season because I have pretty low expectations, and low expectations are fun. But
No, don't read the comments. Corey's mad. Never read the comments when you're talking.
Comments. I don't want to know what people are saying to me right now. I'm not going to check. JaVale McGee fucking sucks. I'm sorry.
I love it. Oh, man.
I just don't understand why 3 years. Like, if he decides to sign with Milwaukee because we won't give him the third year or we won't give him the starting spot, then let him.
Yeah. That one I think is going to be one it's not that we regret, because I actually think he'll be functional. Like, he did not play a particularly good game tonight, but there's going to be nights where we're like, wow.
Absolutely. There's certain matchups that he's going to do very well in, but the thing is, I feel like he's very, very matchup dependent, and there's just a lot. I mean, just the way that we made him absolutely unplayable and then said, oh, yeah, let's go get this guy $20 million over 3 years. It's crazy to me. But, yeah, I think that's really all. That's really about all I had to say. Not a lot. Just, yeah, the biggest thing is I think that Spence, as possibly the second highest usage guy on our team, could be a big problem later in the season. It's like we saw last year that Spence is the third ball handler. That works great. Yeah. But I don't know about the second guy as far as dribbling a basketball and being one of three guys, and one of them is a damn center that can dribble a basketball. I don't like that, but it is what it is.
Well, I sort of need more Christian Wood, like, ball handling, bringing up the floor.
That was like enthralling. I want to see him get the board and bring the ball up the court.
He did a couple of times. Regularly. It was nice. I liked it.
Christian Wood dribbling the ball at all times was great tonight. Like, literally, it went somewhere good. Even if he bricked the free throws afterwards, it went somewhere good every single time. But, that man got to work on his damn free throws. It's crazy that he's as good of a shooter from three as he is and just god-awful at the line, but you can work on that.
We're going to see. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, sir. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, coming up next, who we got here? We got a lengthy list. Krishna, what's up, man?
Hey, Kirk, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
I just kind of want to laugh because I feel like this is the story of the Mavericks in general. Like, you just do some really good things, but you can't seem to finish it out. It's tough. It's just really tough to lose like that. But like our last speaker just said, it is one game. You have 81 more games. And I think the things we were more worried about were not actually as big of an issue. Like, Christian Wood looked fine defensively. I mean, he even had
I thought he did play. He played okay. I didn't have any problems. Yeah,
he had a great block. Obviously, that 16-0 run was insane. And the kid thing, like, I feel like...
What are you doing? That's
sorry.
Loud.
I think it was a trash bag. My bad.
Everybody's got their headphones in, walking around. Come on now, we're getting all sorts of feedback here.
My bad. I'm done. Okay. So basically, the kid stuff was, I feel like it's the same thing as last season. Like, it happened all the time where kid would say, oh, I'm not going to take a timeout because I want the team to, figure it out for themselves. And, I don't necessarily agree with that. I can understand his methodology. I just don't agree with it. And today was a good moment where it was like, yeah, it doesn't work all the time. And I kind of wish you were a little more traditional. It's weird. Like, again, it's one game. It sucked for the past, 2 hours. I was glad at least I had something to do so I didn't have to sit at my computer and stare in rage. But, it's one game, and I think the interesting thing is guys like Dorian and Reggie just did not really play well on defense, and I don't expect that over the whole season. And I think in some ways we're kind of seeing it's not like Luka has to play into shape. It feels like everyone else is trying to play into shape, and that's such a weird feeling.
Yeah, I mean, because Luka's going 13 of 13 from the line. He did have some funky elements to his game, but it was like they got up really – there was that timeout where, Spencer almost had to be pulled back, and it's like, oh, man, they're just going to blow the doors off him. And then things started to get a little sloppy, as is the case. And, this was – I will say that the previous two seasons – so, I don't know if anybody remembers this far, but the first game the Mavericks played with Luka and KP was against the Wizards, and Luka straight up murdered Thomas Bryant on TV. That was a coming out party because Luka looked like a different player. Then the next 2 years they just started badly, and those games were brutal. This game did not there's enough to come away from this one where I feel pretty good. I am very frustrated by specific elements that seem like fixable things. And I don't think you were in here at this point last year, but when the Mavericks started off the year winning ugly games and then getting killed on national TV, because I don't think they won a national TV game.
No, they didn't.
It was awful. So it's this I can stomach in a way last year that I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's I would say this to everyone. Would you want to be Denver right now? Because, oh boy, Denver fans must be feeling horrendous. I feel really bad for Denver fans. But yeah, like you said, this is not something where you look at this and you go, I have no idea what the Mavericks are going to do. It's all fixable. And I think that's a far better indicator that there's still positives for the rest of the season. And I think you kind of look at the next 5 games, it's tough. The Pelicans and Grizzlies
that's going to be a tough game.
Pelicans,
they looked like a death machine tonight.
The Pelicans and the Grizzlies are going to be brutal. The Nets might have already imploded by the time we get to them. The Magic are exciting, and the Thunder are the Thunder. But, if we get out of this and we're 3-2, I'll be fine. I'll be more than happy with that. And I think at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is, does this team figure out its identity? And I think the biggest question to me, and I feel like everyone with the offseason is Christian Wood going to completely fit? Will Kidd have some trust in him? And I think the fact that Kidd was just hey, go out there and do whatever you want for 8 minutes, and Christian Wood fulfilled that to some extent, I think is promising. And, third ball handler stuff, we can talk about it all day because, You saw it. Spencer gets 4 fouls. You wish you had a third ball handler because then you don't have to worry about that. And I don't think it was so much that.
I mean, I think Facu Campazzo would have played tonight. I really do.
I agree. And you kind of beat the hammer. It's not so much the signing of Campazzo, but it's kind of it's what it means. It means the team does need someone else to sign, though I think, if you look at the Jazz, they're going to be selling people because there's no way. God, what's the GM in Utah? I always forget his name.
Isn't it James? No, it's not James Jones.
Not GM. Maybe the president from Boston. Gosh.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever. He's not going to want this. He's going to want to go after Victor, and so they're going to be giving up guys. Like I think Mike Conley, someone who might have gone for a first rounder this offseason, he might go for like dirt cheap this offseason. And I think it'll take time. Like the Mavericks are going to lose games. Like no team is going to go 82-0. And
we got really spoiled. I don't know how to explain to people that what happened at the end of at the New
Danny
Year
Ainge.
where they went 35.
Thank you, Armand.
The Mavericks finished the year 35-12. That does not happen.
Of course, and like I think it's like in a way we reflected like what Boston did last season. Like Boston and Dallas, the first half of the season last year were actually abysmal. They were in the play-in, and the fact that both those teams not only made the conference finals, but the Celtics then went and made the finals. Like that's rare. That's not like a normal thing. And I think this team has enough talent. It has enough good players, and what I feel good about is management did not just make moves this offseason that, you gambled on, because I still think now there's room to, like you talked about, like Tim could be traded, and I don't think that'd be a huge deal because it doesn't feel like Tim is an integral part of the team. And I think there's room for moves and room for improvement. Whereas if you had gone kind of all in this offseason, you were kind of stuck in a way that so many other Mavericks teams have been stuck.
Yeah.
But, one game, we'll see. Grizzlies. Somehow we always do well against the Grizzlies.
I agree. I'm less worried. That's a fun one for me. That's a measuring stick game. I'm going to be looking forward to that one.
Exactly. And it is what it is. I guess I'd rather lose the Suns in the regular season. So it's perfectly fine for me.
All right, man. Well,
all right, man. I'll see you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, everyone just be cognizant of the fact that your phone picks up everything that's going on. I've had that problem too, and I'm the host of the show. So, Sam, what's up?
Kirk, what is up?
Yeah, we're going. What's going on with you?
Oh, yeah, we're going. That sucked. I mean, it's funny. I tweeted this is giving me like game 2 Western Conference Finals vibes. You have a big lead and then the third quarter, which I think when Spencer Dinwiddie, picked up that 4th foul, that really just kind of mucked everything up because Luka was the only ball handler.
Yep.
And I just find it funny, too, oddly enough, that the guy that we could have signed earlier, Goran Dragic, actually had a good game in Chicago against the Heat. So, hey, that's neither here nor there. But it's one game. It's obviously just one game. And we all talked about Jason Kidd. I mean, he has to have a training camp too, I guess, in some way, just to learn what to do whenever you got a guy that's hot and then you take him out. But that's neither here nor there. Everybody gets blamed. I mean, Christian Wood, you can't shoot 3 from 10 from the free throw line. Like, if Luka's going to go 13 or 13, you got to at least go at least 70%. Like, if you go 70%, you win the game. So, I just think it's funny that Chris Paul didn't really play the last half of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
With Cameron Payne, and we still got beat. But we got beat.
There's a long COVID joke that had we won, I absolutely would have asked if the entire Suns team still had COVID, but we didn't, and I can't make that joke now. I'm really upset.
Oh yeah, trust me. The first half, I was ready to troll all the Suns fans, but I can't do it. We got beat, so it is what it is. We got to get Memphis because, God, New Orleans, the way they play tonight, they're going to be insane. And Brooklyn, even though they play like shit, they're still Brooklyn. They got KD and Kyrie, so they can still go off for everything. I mean, I guess they got Ben Simmons too. But
triple single.
Exactly, triple single. So I'm not concerned. I mean, I feel like they start off slow. I think Jason Kidd will learn from this. Christian Wood, no doubt in my mind, he'll play at least 20 or 30 minutes next game. I just have a feeling now. And we'll just go from there. And, it's one game. We'll see what happens.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming up. Hope you feel better after talking.
Oh, I feel great. I just still suck though, but
Oh, yeah. All right. Talk soon.
have a good one.
All right. Hey, Logan.
How's it going,
What's
Kirk?
up? It's good. Stop arguing with people on Twitter and go write something for MavsMoneyball.com.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you. It's nice to talk to you with, you being my boss.
Oh, shit. I'm not, come on. I run a fan website. I'm your boss, and then I'm an organizational lunatic. I'm nobody's boss. So Logan now does some writing for Mavs Moneyball. He's got a piece, I don't know. He's written 4 or 5 things. So, yeah.
Oh, a little disappointed. I think the most disappointing part is that Damian Lee is the one who did it, because we played perfect defense in that last possession. Like, I'll take the Damian Lee fadeaway 100 times out of 100 times, and he freaking made it. But I don't know. I just think Kid was experimenting a lot. My friend was getting so upset with it, and I was like, I think we're just going to have to deal with this. Like, there's people that the team is loyal to, and there's like Tim Hardaway's an organizational trooper. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's on the leadership council, and I feel like they will notice things that are obvious the same way we notice them. And I mean, it's just crazy for Tim Hardaway to play that many, more minutes than Wood, but Kid was just doing weird stuff. He was throwing shit-covered darts, as I put it earlier on Twitter, and I just think that that's kind of early season basketball, though. Like, I don't know. Try not to get too upset about tactics when they're going to be so fluid going forward.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself on my own app. I mean, I think where it comes down to is just when you lose a 22-point game, when you lose a 22-point lead, there's just all sorts of how did that happen? And I sort of boil it down to the free throws being the first big one, the second big one being the lack of third ball handler and a steadying presence in the offense, because Luka had sort of mentally checked out in the third. That sort of needs to be stated. And then, I think that we saw an instance of Kid's willingness to – it's like he does this thing where he trusts the lineups too much to play through stuff, but then he won't trust specific players in certain ways. Like Christian Wood gave a really good post-game quote about how he needs to build trust. He understands why he wasn't out there. But that's that's almost like a backhanded, well, you never know if I would have been out there type thing. So it is really easy to overread into this, but I do feel like Followell was talking about this a lot in the first half, how it's the continuity of where they were last year carried over. I tend to see some of that because this was a lot more pleasant to watch than the first half of last year.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, that's the good thing to take away, is that especially when things were going good in the beginning and stuff, it just looked so much more tight knit to where it's I don't think it will take very long once they get the rotations and stuff down for it to already be gelled, as opposed to just last year it was awful. But even at one point in the fourth quarter, it was Spencer, THJ, and Luka, and I would never have been Kid running that particular group. That's when I was oh, he's truly just experimenting with lineups, because he was very reticent to ever do Brunson, Dinwiddie, and Luka.
Yeah.
So it's and that's a much better. I mean, that's just you get more creation in general. There's just no reason to have Tim out there in between Spencer and Luka. I just think there's enough shooting elsewhere by people who give you defense and stuff. But when that was happening, I was oh, this is definitely just a feeling out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All I know is that I told some friends I was doing a show, and their response back was, "It's 1 a.m. Why are you doing this?" And it's well, guys, come on, we're here.
The first game.
That's right. That's exactly right. You got anything else for us, Logan?
Christian Wood was exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because he's kind of obviously a punk, and the Mavs don't ever have guys like that, and I dig it. I'm celebrate after you do shit. It's cool. I don't know.
This is an old man reference, but him and Luka give me with their smirking attitude, give me strong Shawn Michaels Triple H DX vibes from 1999. That's just
I can see that
thing.
Except it would be some kind of polar opposite. It would be a Slovenian, but I don't know. It's different. I think my takeaway that's positive is that I said Christian Wood, or there were some comparisons to like a Bobby Portis where he'd get on a good team and then be kind of this like, you know, like offensive spark plug, but he's not really. It's like, no, Christian Wood is going to be, he's better than that. You know what I mean? Like, he is a fringe all-star level offensive player. Defensively, who knows? That could always be a problem. But at least the offense, it's like, it's not just this like weapon. It's like he can be a key part of the offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming up on stage and talking.
Same. We'll talk soon.
Mm-hmm. We got another one of our writers here in the comments too, but we're just going to keep going through people. Jonas, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kirk. How's it going?
It's going. I like your avatar.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. First point I got is I don't really care about the Mavs losing one game. I care about the Mavs losing many games when they're up by 20 points. I don't really care about the Mavs losing one game by 20 points. I was pretty encouraged by the way they played tonight.
Good. What else? I can understand that. At this point last year, they lost so many. Their point differential in like their first 15 games was negative because they got blown out by the Hawks. That was like the second or third game of the year. So it's like that was when we were really grumpy in here. But this one was a series of correct.
It is actually funny because I was watching the game tonight with the exact same friend of mine that I was watching that Hawks game with about a year ago, and he was like, well, this wasn't quite as bad as last year. But yeah, no, I think that the team is playing well together. Obviously on offense, they're playing well. I was surprisingly encouraged by Christian Wood on defense. Be interested to see what you thought about how he played on defense. I thought he had a lot of good energy, a lot of good activity on that end.
I was very pleased. Defense, and particularly rotations on defense, are about understanding what you're supposed to do and then trust that, like, when you help, the guy behind you will also help. And he had that one real cool block at the rim. I didn't see anything egregious. Like, there's things when Tim Hardaway gets beat on a single dribble, like, that makes me want to throw my phone into the ocean. But as long as you're not getting, like, destroyed, it's often more about effort.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, Maxey and Josh Green being afraid to shoot, especially after Maxey, 8 threes in the playoff game against the same team.
The hit
like,
shot.
I don't really understand that.
Where he just, even the announcers, like the Mavs announcers, are never really critical, but they were even like, gotta shoot that.
Yeah, I really don't know. He's an interesting player that I just don't understand where his confidence comes from sometimes, and then other times I'm like, what is going on in your mind?
Maxey girlfriend
I don't
watch.
get it.
It's in high order. Is he dating? Is he dating a hot blonde? Because I don't know if you guys know this story. I feel I'm fine telling this now. He used to be dating a woman in Dallas who, if you would tweet about him and you were a media person, she would get in your DMs and tell you to stop calling him handsome. It was wild.
I've never heard that before, but that's pretty amazing. I guess the last point I have is, I think that even though I feel like we're still a pretty isolation team, either Luka, Dinwiddie working. Obviously the loss of JB was pretty big, but I feel like we're still a similar style team, but with very different personnel. And the Suns, obviously nothing really changed in the major part of the rotation other than, the subtraction of Jay Crowder. So I was pretty encouraged. I think the fact that obviously it's never good when you blow a 20-point lead, but the fact that you almost blew this team out, and frankly, you should have blown this team out tonight is very encouraging for how different our personnel are on our team currently. So I'm pretty happy tonight. I'm not too not too angry. I expect them to be a lot better through the beginning parts of the season than they were last year, and that helps a lot, especially with how much deeper the Western Conference is this year.
Well, thank you for coming up, Jonas. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kirk. Have a good night.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, coming up next, let's see who we got. Let's go to Gordon. Hi, Gordon. Welcome back. Hit that unmute in there at the bottom of the screen on the main page, and that'll give you an opportunity to talk.
Hey, yeah, what's going on, Kirk?
Just talking to y'all.
Yeah. So I think I want to play a little bit of Jason Kidd, devil's advocate here. So if the idea in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game is that, Luka is going to be at his most ball dominant, then it kind of makes sense to me that you need to be surrounding him with either straight 3-and-D guys or pick and roll partners. And, when Christian Wood checked in, what was that, like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game? There was 1, maybe 2 really awkward offensive possessions where they were trying to get him involved in the pick and roll, and it just clearly wasn't working. Or it seemed to me that it wasn't. It just seemed to be very awkward. And as much as I think that that's really going to be their bread and butter, maybe even in just a few weeks, and as much as he did have the 3 going, I feel like it's understandable that Kidd might not have been willing to trust him on the defensive end so much. Does that make sense?
It 100% makes sense. I actually wrote that. Like, I understand the theory. It's a hot hand thing where it's like the guy scores 16 points and is primarily, it's like the emotional side of me is really pissed about this, but the analytical side understands what the coaching decision was. I mean, it's just the problem was they went up 10 to down 1 in 4 minutes. So like their defensive lineup wasn't getting a damn thing. And like that was an element of Kidd letting it go maybe 2 possessions longer than he should have. And that is sort of, he's the opposite of Rick Carlisle, because Rick Carlisle would be like, 1 mistake, everybody to the phantom zone. And this is just, it's a different deal. So I think over the long term, it's better for the health of the team because you got to learn to play through mistakes, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Yeah. And, I do appreciate the sentiment of, hey, we got to let the guys play through mistakes. But I do think that you need to try to get a win in game 1. I think that you can sort of set some of those things aside and say, this isn't, an incredibly meaningful game, but it's not a meaningless game either.
That's right.
Especially considering, it's a team that really wants to beat. I don't know. It's just, I feel like game 1 is just it's a game you need to try and win.
Yeah.
And really set the tone. Only other thing I wanted to say was, goodness, I've been so enamored for 2 seasons and a game of, with Josh Green's obvious, athleticism. But goodness gracious, inside the 3-point line, does he think the inside the 3-point line is lava? Like, as soon as he gets the ball inside the 3-point line, he thinks he has to jump and get rid of the ball as quickly as he can, and it doesn't matter if he knows where he's going with the ball.
I need someone to have like like maybe Panda Hank 41 can do like some Mystery Science Theater style overlays of audio, because like when Josh Green has the ball, I want some like internal monologue where it's like he gets the ball and the only thing that's like you get to see his monologue and it's fuck. Yeah. Because like that's basically what's going on whenever that dude has the ball in offense. And it's like real cool because in the first half he had a couple of leak outs and was doing like when he runs so fast, but then in the half court setting, it's like, oh my God. It's like a kid at his first school dance and he's like slow dancing with a girl. What is going to happen? It's killing me. The Josh Green experience hurts me because I want him to do well. I want people to come at me and say, Kirk, your Josh Green takes suck. but instead he keeps doing things that make it worse.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Oh, goodness. That's all I got, Kirk. Thanks a lot.
Talk soon. All right. Coming up next is Brett. Hey, Brett, what do you got for us?
Oh, hi, Kirk. Yeah, so, I mean, I would agree with folks who said that they're not too particularly concerned about the loss. Like, obviously, the circumstances are disappointing, but if you had said, they're going to lose by 2 points on last-second kind of lucky shot, I mean, you'd take that going into the game. It's on the road. The Suns had something to prove in the second half, particularly. Yep. The overall, it's the process again that's more frustrating. So, I don't know. I mean, people have talked kind of ad nauseum about substituting out Wood, so I won't really touch on that. But a couple things that I thought, I was really impressed with Wood's passing. He had a few passes out of the short roll that I thought were good. And just in general, like the willingness to make those passes and not just solely look to either shoot the ball or to throw it back out to Luka to restart the play.
Yeah, I thought there's a lot of good process on offense tonight. It just, when it bogged down in such a brutal way. But I was very pleased compared to what – do you remember last year we started off the season with 2 straight Dorian Finney-Smith post-ups? That can't be – like, we never forget.
Yeah, the first 15 games of last season, I'd said in the comments that, like, when I was at the game in Chicago against the Bulls, where Porzingis posted up, like, every other play. God. Like, it was horrendous. It was like the worst offensive scheme I've ever seen in my life. And so it's infinitely better than that. And on defense, I mean, like, I know people had some concerns about defense, but like they did not really have many problems on defense as a collective.
No, Devin Booker is a good player. They guarded the 3-point line pretty well. I thought they gave up too many paint points. There were also some offensive rebounds it's like the whole point of JaVale McGee is to get rebounds, and he gave up offensive rebounds. But these are like minor quibbles as opposed to like things that systematically went on throughout the whole game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and JaVale McGee, to touch on him specifically, statistically, he doesn't do any of the things he supposedly does well, like rebounding or defense, et cetera, or shot blocking or whatever. I mean, I guess he does shot block well, but that does not mean he's necessarily a good defender. But the reputation he has and his actual ability are two completely different things. So when people say like he brings rebounding or whatever, he doesn't bring in rebounding any more than Dwight Powell brings.
It's like JaVale McGee is the opposite of Dwight Powell, who does a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't show up on the page, whereas JaVale McGee will occasionally have these blow up stat games. Then you're like, wait, how is he a -5? What?
Yeah, I mean, like my problem with McGee is not necessarily his on-court play, but more like the mentality behind signing him when you already have Dwight Powell and you traded for Christian Wood and you have Maxi Kleber on a team that doesn't like.
Well, that's where I think the JaVale McGee thing was done well before the Christian Wood thing appeared, and they, maybe doing that over again. I don't think they would.
Yeah, and the last thing is, I mean, and you've touched on this a lot, but the idea of having 3 ball handlers, the Mavericks found a solution like last season with 3 ball handlers. It was very clearly the formula that worked for them through the second half of the regular season and the playoffs. It is the biggest reason why they had success. And then they promptly did not re-sign one of those 3 players and then decided that they didn't really need another player to replace and so like the problem that the offense will have at times is entirely self-inflicted.
Yeah. Well, I see our chat is already arguing about it. It's like when you're arguing about McGee versus Powell, that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, that's such a marginal thing that like over a game, like when you think about like the value that a player has on the game, like that's like a 1 point kind of difference. Like that's such a minor, like not even that. Like it's such like a tiny problem. But I mean.
It's like the Hartenstein guy up in New York would have been an ideal fit for this roster, but Dallas could not afford him. There are guys in what they want to do where it's granted the big man rotation is a step in the right direction. I will tell you that much because we started off last year with 6 centers and one of them was Willie Cauley-Stein playing significant minutes. So I will I will take some JaVale McGee foibles over some of what we ended up having to deal with last year.
Oh yeah, I mean, like having him on the team is not bad. Like having him to play minutes rather than like playing Boban or whatever, like is infinitely better. Like the roster is better with him on it. But again, not having Brunson or not having Dragic or whatever. I mean, like that will be a problem that will continue until some sort of move is made.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Brett.
Thank you.
All right. Talk soon. All right. Coming up next, we're still going to go with people because I'm awake. Hey, I have a guest here who's my friend, and he probably wants to go to bed. You guys know him as Jason Gallagher. He is a video producer and producer for some of the most listened to podcasts on this here internet. Jason, what's up?
Oh, Kirk, how are you feeling? That's
okay.
What I want to know.
I mean, I'm better now. I do these so I don't shit post on Twitter for like 3 hours after the game. Like I'd much rather do this. I always go to bed feeling better after these.
Totally. I typically tweet like 2 to 3 things and then delete them almost immediately.
Right, immediately,
and
yeah.
That helps me. That helps me get through. Yeah, that was a weird thing that we just watched, and I'm sure somebody has mentioned it already. Obviously, the Christian Wood thing is just like the most baffling thing. It's one game into the season, but I'm pretty fired up about it, Kirk.
Tell me. Get into it. Tell me why. Tell me more.
I'm just watching two coaches who are literally polar opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, like, look, okay, you got to give kids some credit on the defensive end at times, but it's like on the overall scheme, it's like here you have one of the most established point guards of all time, and you see that Damian Lee has it going, so you're just going to ride him. You know what I mean? And on the polar opposite side, you're just like, well,
that's a fucking good point.
We're sitting here. We're sitting here, and Maxi's our guy. He's established, a leadership position. It's like, are you serious? Look what's going on the other side. And that was pretty infuriating to watch. But on the flip
side, think about that. I just thought Chris Paul might be dead because he's 1,000 fucking years old, and maybe whatever blood of virgins he's been drinking stopped working. I don't know. I like your theory better. Yours is much more practical.
It's not even a theory. It's just an observation of just like two completely different. And you learn some things, but at the same time, it's just a little baffling why you would take Christian Wood out. But I think the pluses are that losing Brunson sucks, but the roster feels a little bit more complete, yes. I suppose, which felt good. And then honestly, like Luka just kind of has like I don't know if I can swear on this.
Oh,
but
No.
Yeah, just kind of like a fuck around vibe. It's almost as though he didn't take Phoenix seriously for a while.
He killed him and then he let up. Like he was crushing him, and he was partially. I don't hold him solely responsible. Like Matt Moore just posted, he had a 39% usage rate tonight.
Yeah.
So when he's in, he's controlling things. So that means he gets more of the blame because he's controlling the ball so much. So
and the free throws thing is huge.
He hit his though. That's key.
Exactly. So I just think that his whole general vibe, it was like both the good and the bad. It was kind of like he knows he's that good. And he knows that he could. I feel like he's in the locker room right now being like, I could beat that team. I know I could. I just fucked around a little too much, which is like both good and bad. It's like he needs his back up against the wall. He needs to be pissed off or something. So, and that's like reading way too much into the psychology of things. But it was like kind of like a good, bad thing. But the roster does feel a little bit more complete. It's a weird thing to say after a loss, but like man, that the big position is so much more versatile. And I heard you talking on the last person, and JaVale's not great, but it's just like we have so much more options there. And I don't know, it just feels like we have more options.
Sure.
What do you think?
Like friend of the program and your former colleague Kevin O'Connor shared that this play, it happens early in the first quarter, where Luka basically does a pick and roll with Christian Wood. Christian Wood rolls inside the 3-point line, gets the pass, takes one dribble, and draws two defenders to him at the free throw line. That's not something that would happen with Dwight Powell. So he just kind of casually tosses it over to the right corner for Reggie Bullock for 3. And like there's just an opportunity for these guys to spam certain things. And I know Kidd's a defensive coach, but this offense could murder people with some of the shooting that they have.
Well, yeah, and even with going back to sort of the big position, it's like, Dwight Powell, we all have our takes, but like his best role is like, okay, nothing's really working. We need like 3 minutes of energy. And like, that's what you want out of Dwight Powell. But like, we were like starting the guy
Mm-hmm.
and that's like, the Mavs made it to the Western Conference Finals starting Dwight Powell. Like it's just the upgrade is undeniable, I think. So it's a really weird thing to say out loud when you lose Jalen Brunson, but at the same time, it feels like a more complete team and a weirdly like a more confident team that just kind of like let off the gas like a bunch of morons. And the coaching staff, like I just, the Christian Wood thing is like, if that didn't happen, I'd probably be asleep right now, but that happened and I'm just fucking rolling around being like, I can't believe we literally just watched Damian Lee take the place of Chris Paul and win. Like, come on.
I feel your pain. I'm better though. We got a couple of days off. They're going to lick their wounds and probably be angry when they come play the Memphis Grizzlies in the home opener.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a good solid W. So
that's right.
All right, brother. Well, it's good hearing your voice.
You too. We'll talk soon.
See ya.
All right. Coming up next is Mavs Moneyball contributor. Where is it? My speaker request went away. There we go. Brent, how we doing?
Hey, Kirk, how's it going, man?
I'm still here. I just realized the first podcast I posted didn't have the appropriate number of ads, so I'm figuring out how to do that while also talking.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been pretty bullish about the team and still am in the big picture. But man, one of the things that I'm not dissuaded on at all is my belief that Phoenix sucks. We just coughed up a huge lead on national television to a team that might make the play-in. They're bad.
That's a strong take. I'm still not sure how I feel about them. I do think that they have some like existential funk hanging out over them, and this would have been a nice opportunity to really send them on a death spiral. But
yes, well, we didn't, and we had them on the ropes. And we talk about Luka getting disinterested in the fourth quarter. He's grinning too much in the first half. Save the grin and the celebratory kind of vibe until you put them away, because you've got to know that after what happened in Game 7, to be down like they were in the opener at halftime, they were going to come out fighting, and they did. And I think Spencer's fourth foul, as you alluded to earlier, really caused a problem because Campazzo's not ready yet. And it had me wanting to – I know you're going to laugh. I wanted to see McKinley Wright in the third quarter.
Two-way player McKinley Wright. Wow.
That's right. And Kidd is too damn slow with the timeouts. If Rick was too quick triggered, there's got to be a happy medium, because when you have a 20, 22-point lead and it's vanishing that quickly, you get it down to maybe 10, 12, you go, oh, the guys will play through it. That's a possession or two away from 5 or 6. It just felt like if Christian Wood had not popped off like he had, they may have run us out of the gym in the second half, because Luka looked disinterested, you say, but in the fourth he kind of looked gassed. And I'm thinking that these threes, it's the first time I've ever had this thought, Luka's step backs, not all the time, but some of the time, feel like a way for him to manage his gas tank when the usage rate's going to be especially high in a game.
Oh,
if we're playing,
that's the case. That's
yeah.
Where it's more. That's where the additional playmaker thing becomes real.
Right. And one of the things that also stood out was the distribution of trust, because when Wood goes on his shooting spree, and then he comes back in because the offense is stagnant, I fully expected him to come in for Maxey, not Spencer. So he's essentially replacing the 2 on the floor, right?
Sure.
Which tells me
some playmaking, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he's not trusted to play the 5 right now, at least not in crunch time. And that's essentially what he's been touted as this whole time is, hey, is he going to be the starting center? Is he the backup center? And tonight he was essentially the shooting guard in a way. And the last thing, I guess, is you can't when a game is this competitive and things aren't going your way in the second half, it's tough to see your bench players like Josh, like Maxi, just, we talked about the floor is lava, but just these moments where it's, oh my God, I have the ball in my hands, or an open shot is passed up. And there were just way too many damn turnovers tonight. And I know it's just one game, and I know it's the opener, but
there were a lot of turnovers in the third quarter. I think the Mavericks only had 12 turnovers, but they had 6 in the third quarter. They had 6 made field goals in the third quarter. I'm pulling this back up to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Yeah, they had 12 total turnovers. So they had 6 in the third quarter and 6 made field goals. And that was when everything ground into just a halt.
Right. Do you think that if we had Campazzo ready to go, we would have won?
That's such a sliding doors moment. I just think that there would have been a little more settled offense because things were weird. It's a question of, you can judge that on all sorts of things. I mean, Tim Hardaway was 1 of 5 on threes, and every one of his threes was wide open. It's just if he makes 1 3, everything changes, and he just didn't.
Right. Well, I'm still optimistic. We get the Grizzlies on Saturday night and an early scheduling break. We get them on the back half of a back-to-back, and the AAC will be rocking. They're going to come off just playing Houston. So, they're a young team. Maybe their legs won't be as dead as other teams might be. But tonight, watching the Grizzlies, yes, they pulled out the victory, but the Knicks pushed them to overtime. And when Bane is off the floor, Morant has very few bailout options from deep. I just don't like the shooting on the Grizzlies. I'm sure they're going to have a great regular season, but I like how we match up against them again.
I could be wrong here, and somebody can fact check me on this. I don't think that Ja Morant has ever beaten Luka.
I don't think so.
They've not played each other that many times because it's always been a scheduled rest or an injury or something. And then the one time the Grizzlies should have beaten him with Luka was the meat sweats game where Luka had the stumbling, bumbling 3-point shot that went in. I think that was the meat sweats game. I get these games all mixed up, but that was one game where they did play. And of course, Luka wins doing that sort of thing. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Brent. Talk soon.
Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm. I know Brent wanted to go next. He gave me the impression he wanted to go to sleep, but he sends me slacks at 3 a.m. Ruben, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can. You sound great.
Oh, man, just a couple of things I just wanted to get off. The wheels pretty much came off when Spence got that 4th foul, and he was just hit 2 threes in a row, I want to say. But, yeah, it kind of showed maybe Campazzo, his vision may have helped out in that situation. I'm not going to say we would have won the game, but missing all those free throws was almost like turnovers in football, almost like
great comp.
You can't.
That's a great comp because it just stops your momentum. And there was
exactly. And if you have the most free throws in a football game, you will lose the game, statistics say. But and we wasted a 13-13 free throw game from Luka. That kind of sucks. But the Seawood minutes. I want Seawood and Luka to have more minutes together. And I don't feel like we saw that in this game. And Seawood pretty much bailed him out. I just don't understand how we blow a 20-point lead, then get a 15-point lead thanks to Seawood, and then blow that. I can't wrap my head around it, so that's why I'm here getting it off my chest. But I would like to see maybe J. Kidd messes with the starting lineup a little bit, and hey, keep JaVale McGee in there, I guess. But one thing about McGee. Do not give him the ball at the top of the key and expect him to do something with it.
Line. That was ridiculous.
Oh my God! And then they did it again. Tim threw on the ball on the 3-point line and expected him to do something. I'm like, no, go get the ball from this man.
If you get the one pass, and all you're supposed to do is move it along the perimeter. At a certain point, that's on McGee.
But let them give them the ball, and then somebody let them set the pick and come get the ball from him. Don't leave him out there expecting him to make a play. No, he's not. We didn't pay him for that. So,
that's right.
But I would like to see maybe like Seawood go in for Spence, and Spence can lead the second unit still with Timmy and, Maxie and stuff like that. I would like to see that lineup. I just want the Mavs to, like you said, we could have murdered this team if Spence didn't get in foul trouble. But we could have murdered them earlier if Seawood would have been out there going off in the first quarter, like early in the first quarter. We would have had a 30-point lead. Literally, play your best players. And I don't understand why this team never does that.
Well, okay, so there's three things I got real quick. Two stat corrections by me. One, the Mavericks lost that meat sweats game. I don't know why I said that. Two, the Mavericks are 5-1 against, Ja is 1-5 against Luka. That's okay. Thanks to Matt Moore, who is apparently listening, for telling me that. And Matt, who also triggered this in my mind, he told me when he came on my podcast, he's like, he just thinks over time that Jason Kidd is going to see the fact that despite Christian Wood's defense, let's say he doesn't ever play great defense, he's just going to kind of win the plus minus battle because he makes things happen. He had a couple of drives. Like, we have not talked about this yet, but Christian Wood was a foul drawing machine.
Yes, he literally almost got 8 out the game by himself.
I think he had 9 drawn fouls. I could be wrong here. And it's the sort of stuff because of, he's kind of slight. He gets bumped off his position. Like, Luka's never going to get these calls. Number one, because he's a bull. Number two, because he's an asshole. But these sorts of things, I think that Kid's eventually going to get worn down about the Wood thing. I just get that feeling because, it's the difference of playing. He played 24 minutes tonight. You can play Wood 30 minutes. You can play Wood 32 minutes. You can do these sorts of things. They'll figure it out. They'll figure out the rotation.
Yeah, and it's the first game, so I'm going to calm down a little bit. But when you got that type of weapon, if all the ball creator stuff, let Spence go back to ball creating for the second unit. It's that easy. Let Seawood start in his position, and that's even more scoring. And Seawood had 8 rebounds tonight. McGee only had 4. He's on the boards. He gets blocks. We're going to start finding out his defense is not below average, is maybe average to slightly above. But just use him, and I hope we use him in the right way in the starting lineup, because Luka and him can just take over a game, and nobody can stop. They can draw fouls, and Seawood can bring it up. And he dished out a couple of assists tonight. I hope we don't waste that talent by trying to overcoach or, let me outsmart this team. No, just go out and beat this team. Put Spence with the second unit and let them create with Timmy. And I could be wrong, but I thought it was that simple. And taking him out, oh my God, you take him out after a hot streak, and then it was a point in the game, I think it was in the fourth, where he gets a rebound and they call a timeout, their last timeout, and they take him out. They don't leave him in. If nobody would have fouled, Seawood couldn't get back in the game. He has to be closing games and starting games. I'm sorry, he's your second best player, but that's pretty much all I have.
Thanks so much, man. Hope you feel better after talking. I do. So appreciate you coming up.
I definitely do. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon. Okay, Ryan, welcome. How you doing? Hit the unmute button there at the bottom of the screen when you're on the main.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we go.
All right. Hey, yeah. So I just want to talk we all are bitching about Woods minutes and stuff, but I don't think we're remembering how Reggie Bullock basically didn't play but 15, 20 minutes for the first half of the season. And then in the playoffs, he was playing.
Yeah, nearly getting killed, just never coming off the floor.
Yeah, so I think Kid's going to eventually figure it out. I mean, I hope so. He's our second best player, in my opinion. But I think just the way the first game goes, he wants to go with the guys he knows, and it's just kind of one of those deals where he's going to ride who we know is not the hot hand, which is frustrating for us fans because we're just sitting here why isn't Wood in? But that's kind of what I'm talking about today. Just it's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
then,
I do these primarily because it's like I tend to I'll just like continually talk about this stuff on Twitter, and it's like when I talk these things out, I'm like, okay, not that I had any control, but now I feel better after getting it out there.
But yeah, and then the only other thing I have is, man, I would love to upgrade the Josh Green role. Like Bogdan would be perfect. Now he's with the Pistons, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Mark Cuban's going to Mark Cuban.
Well, the depth stuff, I think, you got Green, his first round pick. You want to give him some time. And Josh Green is such a like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of player, where every time he does something amazing, there's so few things that throughout his entire career, like game 3 against Phoenix was one of, or not Phoenix, against Utah was one of them where it's like, wow, what a good Josh Green game. I wrote about how I thought he played pretty good defense tonight, and I'm reading the comments to my article, and people are like, I didn't notice his defense at all. It's like, well, sorry.
No, I mean, he's a great athlete and everything. It's more we're a veteran team, even though we like to say we're young, and it's just,
right.
He just kind of bogs down the offense sometimes because he doesn't know where to be, and he's just kind of a chicken with his head cut off. But I mean, I get it. He's young and he's got potential. You can see it, but it's just frustrating to watch.
It is. Well, thank you for joining us. You got anything else?
That's it. Well, if we make our free throws like the Dirk Nowitzki Mavs, we probably win most of our games. But other than that, that's it.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks for coming up. Okay. Nav, what's happening?
Hey, Kirk, can you hear me? Hey, thanks for having me on. So try not to repeat.
No. Repeat all you want. Because this is about processing our own pissiness with staying up until 1:45 to watch a basketball game.
All right, so I appreciate that. So I'll start with the thing that bothered me the least to the thing that bothers me the most. So Josh Green did not attempt a field goal. That's not a great sign. The Jason Kidd rotation stuff with Christian Wood, like Ryan just said, like that'll fix itself, like everybody is saying. So I'm not worried about that. I guess my biggest point of frustration is something that all of us have been like hitting our heads against the wall about with regards to the third ball handler. And we keep using the term ball handler where I want to make a distinction between like Campazzo can handle the ball and make passes, but he's not a scorer like Brunson is.
No.
And I think that was and I think that's one of the things that people are missing with the third ball handler, where Dragic, I think, would have really filled that role a lot better with having a third guy that you can give the ball to and he can go get his own basket.
Yeah, I will say, though, that if Campazzo does get some minutes, I do think they run a little bit more offense. It felt like so much of what they do when Luka's at the helm is based off of his pick and roll action. And when he's not dictating it, everything else sort of feels very forced. And I stumped for Dragic. Like, he was the guy that I wanted for a variety of reasons. And it is not lost on me that he played really well against the Heat tonight. And I think that the Mavericks and Jason Kidd didn't really want him for defensive reasons, which I guess I understand. But it's still, you want somebody that can do some attacking and do some attacking with the purpose. Otherwise, it felt, part of what we watched tonight in the third quarter, basically Luka made a basket at 10 minutes and then they didn't score again, or they scored twice over the next 9 minutes. And it was brutal. And you just got to be able, you cannot go that long as an NBA team without getting an easy basket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main thing for me is like, as great as Luka is, we all know he's, generational talent and everything, is I don't want him putting on the Superman cape every single game.
Right.
For us to win or have a chance. And then, God forbid there's an injury to Dinwiddie or Luka. And then you saw like things falling apart when Dinwiddie picked up an early foul. It's more like, yeah, I have some frustrations with Jason Kidd and his rotations, but like everyone has said, I think those will sort themselves out as the season goes on. It's more the roster that, like, losing Brunson was a lot bigger loss, and like Tim Hardaway Jr. fitting in. I would rather have, like a bad defender who's a point guard like Dragic and like play 10 less minutes than, whatever they're doing now. And I guess that's really the frustrating part, because we went so far. You get to the Western Conference Finals, you think, all right, we're going to take another step, hopefully forward. And instead it feels like by losing the third, ball handler scorer, we're actually taking a step back. But I actually agree with what you said earlier, that like in the meantime, we can't fix the roster is what it is. Christian Wood needs to be handling the ball a lot more.
Sure, and maybe we'll see. We'll see what they do. I mean, a lot of this is easy. It fixes itself if Spencer doesn't get 4 fouls immediately. So
yeah. But I'm going to get off. I appreciate you giving me a chance to.
Of course. Thanks for coming up. Talk soon. I hope to have you back.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
All right. It's got a couple more folks, then we'll all go to bed. Harris, what's happening? Thanks for waiting. Hit that mute button at the bottom. There you go. We're going to let you talk. Is there any audio for you on your end?
Yeah, I can
there
hear
we
you.
Go.
Cool. Oh, what's up? So we've been talking about the third ball handler a lot. Do you think there's any like options out there? I mean, someone talked about Mike Conley. He's kind of old.
That's a fun question because the Jazz won tonight and they don't want to win. I think that the Jazz assets will get cheaper as the year goes on. I think Campazzo is on a non-guaranteed deal, which was fascinating to me. That gives the Mavericks some additional roster flexibility. They got Theo and a couple of other guys. Like I think if the Mavericks are playing well enough, like if they're in the, let's say 6-4 kind of playoff range in the West, if they're right there, then I think Cuban might be willing to eat some more money and go get someone else if they sign, because they're in the luxury tax zone. But I don't really see anybody at the moment. I mean, the Jazz are probably the most obvious team because they want to be tanking, but they destroyed the Nuggets tonight. So I'm going to be curious to see how some of that goes. Somebody always shakes out weird in the wash. And the Mavericks, I think, have aspirations. They want to try to win the title. So that's a good question, but I don't have anybody on my mind.
Yeah, we'll have to wait to see like how standings go and who's getting ready to tank. But yeah, I mean, that's my main question there. See what this game reminded me a lot of the game Spencer first went off in Utah, where he played really well, but then he wasn't played at the end of the game, and everyone kind of questioned that decision. But I mean, could kind of fix that pretty quickly. I feel like, then you see him making those buzzer beaters back to back. So I'm not too worried about that, but just kind of annoying,
No, well, that's a good thought. Well, thanks for coming up.
All right, later, man.
Later. Okay, Corey, you've been waiting forever. How we doing? One more mute button press. Give Corey a second here because it pulled him up on stage and it's automatically muted. He's got to find that
there. Thank you so much.
No, it just takes a second.
Sorry, Kirk. That's my first interlude with the mute button. So thanks for your patience. I really just had one kind of main thing I wanted to get off, and that is that coming into this game, I think all of us had some big questions. One of the biggest ones for sure was how was Christian Wood was going to look with the team, and I think everyone, including you, have said the biggest X factor this season is him. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then, and I know the loss sucks, I'm disappointed as anybody, but that's a pretty good takeaway if your biggest question mark was Christian Wood tonight. And keep in mind, the guy normally shoots free throws really well.
He's still in the 60s.
He shoots better than he shoots around Luka. So, I don't know. That to me, that was pretty exciting. And I think they'll figure out a way to use him, and they'll figure out the rotations. That stuff will work itself out. It was annoying as hell tonight, but they will figure that out.
Well, and Wood seems to be his post-game quotes were all pretty, taking responsibility. He said, we had a 20-point lead and we got a little complacent. The biggest thing, we missed a lot of free throws, and that really cost us the game, especially me. And that's just, I don't know. I like when players take responsibility.
Well, I agree. It's, again, the loss sucks, but there was a lot of positives to be taken away from tonight if you're looking at the bigger picture, I think.
Well, thank you for coming up and thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Last but not least, my man Leo. We'll see. Leo, you're the best for waiting up. What's going on? Leo, did you fall asleep? I wouldn't blame you if you fell asleep. Leo might have fallen asleep. It's 2:00 in the morning. I don't blame him. All right. This has been fun. Thanks for hanging out. Great first show of the season. Everyone go have a good time on Saturday night. I will be doing a Spotify Live. I may not be doing it immediately after the game. I am going to my high school reunion like a weirdo, and because I want to see some old friends. But the game is going to be on at the bar, so I will be watching the game that I'm at. I just might not pop on until, starting one of these at like 11 o'clock. But it's Saturday night, so hopefully people won't mind. All right, guys, go to MavsMoneyball.com. We have a lot of coverage, a lot of articles. Really appreciate your support. Thanks for hanging out, and everybody have a good rest of your week.